Hi guys, today we're doing a nice smoked out golden eye look, so if you'd like to see this eye look, please stick around. Without further ado, let's get started. I'm so excited about doing this look today. I love a full glam eye. Today I'm going to start with my eyes. So whenever I do a full glam look, I always start with my eyes. The reason for that is if I have any fallout under here or under here, that will all be covered with the concealer. So I go quite thick and dark on the eyes, but it will always be covered by the foundation and the concealer under here. So the first thing I'm going to do is carve out my eyebrows and fill in my eyebrows. The way I do that is I flick them up, as so, and then I have a look for any spots that need to be filled in. I also like to run my brows down to where the side of my eye is, so around to down about here. So to do that, I actually use the number 3 in the Benefit range. So I'm just going to dab it in here, and I'm going to just bring it down the side here and this side here, just like that. Then I'm going to have a look in the mirror. So I've just got a big mirror here that I'm going to keep looking into just to help me, and I'm going to have a look in the mirror. I'm going to use my spoolie and again flick them up so that I can see where any gaps are within my eyebrows. The pencil brow, and I'm going to fill in any missing gaps I have within my eyebrows. So I'm going to start here just using little tiny strokes, filling in any gaps, but using little tiny strokes so it looks like it's still part of my eyebrows. And once I'm happy with the way that my eyebrows are looking, I'm then going to get the concealer. And today, for today's concealer, you all know my absolute favorite of all time brand is Too Faced. So I'm going to use the Too Faced Born This Way concealer in the color Snow, and I'm going to carve them out. The way I'm going to carve out my eyebrows is by getting a brush, putting a dab on each side of the eyebrow, and then I'm going to run it through the eyebrow and just make sure that I'm cleaning up any marks or hairs that are missing. So I'm just running it through, and I'm going to bring it down as well. I'm going to use this for the base of my eyeshadow look. I like to use a concealer for my eyeshadow look because it gives a really nice base to start off with. I'm taking away all those veins and all the purpleness of the skin underneath, and I'm just giving it a really stable, neutral base to start with. So now that I'm happy with that, I'm going to run it again along the top just to carve out, make sure that it's all nice and worked out exactly as I like it. And then I'm going to do my other eye. I'm going to bring it down, bring it all the way down. Again, bring it all the way across my eye. And take that product up at the top to carve out and make sure that my eyes are matching. Just going to make sure it's all blended in. And once I'm happy with it, I'm just going to go over it very quickly with a damp sponge. The reason you dampen the sponge is so that the product doesn't get sucked up by the sponge and it stays on your face. So I'm just going to lightly tap it in, lightly tap it in, tap it up, just to make sure it's all blended through. Okay. So for today's look, I'm going to do a nice smoky golden eye. And I'm going to use, again, on this way, the Natural Nudes palette. Absolutely obsessed with it. It is beautiful. I will show you the colours inside. They're a bit used because I've used them quite a bit. But it's the most amazing colours, and you can do so many different looks with this. You can do an everyday look. You can do a full glam look. It's just the most beautiful palette. So I'm going to get a big fluffy brush. And a fluffy brush is one that will allow you to just put powder all over your face. And I'm going to start by setting that concealer with this shade here in Swan. So I'm using this shade here in Swan because it's a nice, natural, neutral skin colour, my skin colour shade. And I'm just going to get it and pat it over my eye so that I'm just setting my concealer, and my concealer is not going to go anywhere. Patting it through. Patting it through. Patting it through and making sure that I'm running it all the way up to my eyebrow. Okay. Now the next thing I want to do is I want to use a transition shade. Now there's a lot of talk about transition shades, and I remember when I started to do makeup, I was like, what on earth is a transition shade? So I'm going to just explain to you for a minute. A transition shade is a very neutral shade that you put in the crease and just above the crease of your eye that'll allow you to put other products on and build up so that it all blends nicely together and it doesn't give you those harsh lines. So for this neutral shade, I'm going to start with this color down here, and it's called Seashell. So I'm just going to take a bit of Seashell on my big fluffy brush. Just going to dab it in. I'm going to tap off the excess. I always start at the side of my eye because that's where I like the most product to be. And I'm just going to start running it through the crease of my eye. So I'm just putting just a bit of color on there to allow me to start mixing other colors through with it. So I'm just going to build it up a little bit more. And now I'm going to do the other side. Dabbing it in, tapping it off, starting on the side. And all I'm doing is a windscreen motion. So all I'm doing is just going backwards and forwards like this at this stage with the product. I'll come in a bit closer so you can see what I'm doing. Just going backwards and forwards with the product. So now that I've got Seashell in, I want to start darkening up my crease of my eye as well. I don't want it to, I want a really glam look, so I want my eyes to really pop. So I'm going to start using a darker color. And for this one, I'm going to start building up by using Nude. So Nude will be the next shade I'm going to use. And again, I'm just going to do exactly the same thing. I'm going to take it on the brush, tap it off, start in my corner and run it through. And see, as you can see, it's getting a bit darker. That color is just getting a bit darker. I'm not just staying inside my crease, I'm coming up above my crease as well. And I want to come up above my crease so that it all blends seamlessly together. So start in your corner, windshield motions to go backwards and forwards to get that color through. Or you can also use little circle motions to make sure the pigment's there. So just building up that color ever so slowly, building it up and building it up ever so slowly. Again, starting from the outside because that's where I want my product, that's where I want the darkest, and just windscreen motions backwards and forwards to get the product through. Okay. So now that I've got my transition shade and my darker shade on, I'm quite happy with the way it's starting to come together darker up here. So I wanted to start to warm up inside here, inside my crease. So that's this part here. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get a fluffy brush, but it's not so big as the other fluffy brush. So I have a bit more control. So this was the first fluffy brush I used. This is, again, the same shape. It's got the point at the end and it's a nice fluffy brush, but it's just going to give me a bit of control over exactly where the product is going to go. So for this one, I'm going to dive into Maple here, and I'm just going to tap in, again, sweet off, and I'm going to tap it into the corner. So I'm just sort of packing it into the corner as such, and then with the rest of the product, I'm going to bring it, and I'm just staying in the crease. So I'm just staying in this part. I'm not taking it up here. I'm just staying in my crease in here. So I'm just wanting to make that still a little bit darker. So I'm going to sit there and I'm just going to bring it backwards and forwards, backwards and forwards, backwards and forwards in windscreen motion. And now I'm going to do little circles, and that will allow it to blend and mix all together. So as you can see, we started with a lighter color and we've got a really nice gradient effect happening at the moment. Okay, I'm going to start on the other side now, in the corner and going across. Starting in the corner and going across. Again, not taking it higher than where my crease is. Starting in the corner and taking it across. Okay, now because I'm doing a glam look and I want my eyes to really pop, I want to actually make that crease even darker. So I'm going to go into this color here called Cocoa, and I'm going to start really deepening the crease. So again, taking it on my brush, I'm still using the same brush, and I'm putting it in the corner. I'm packing it, just tapping it, tap, 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 tap in the corner until you get most of the product off. And then you're going to run the rest of the product through into that crease. And it's really starting to darken up now. So you can see the real gradient of the darkness, and it's coming up to the lighter. Again, I'm going to do it on the other side, tap it through, put it here, and then bring it through. And bring it through. Okay. Now is when I really want to define my eye. So now I really want to get a nice shape of that triangle shape in the corner of my eyes. So I'm going to go in with the darkest shade, Truffle, this shade here, and I'm going to be really careful about the way I'm using it. Again, I'm using the same brush. I'm just going to tap it in, tap off the excess, and all I'm doing this time is I'm just packing it in the corner because I'm trying to give my corner a really deep triangle shape. So I'm just wanting that color just in the corner of my eye. Just in the corner of my eye. See how I've just left it in the corner of my eye? And now I'm just going to, just so it blends seamlessly, just go once or twice in windshield motion. I really have nothing left on my brush because I've put it all in the corner of my eye, but it's just to blend it all in seamlessly. Okay. And now I'm going to do the other side. So I'm going to dip into that truffle and I'm going to pack it to the corner, creating a triangle shape. Pack, pack, pack. I'm going to duck it in again and pack it in, pack, 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 and then run it through just ever so slightly to really darken up that eye colour. Okay, so I'm going to have a really nice shape once I've carved out my eyes, and once I've started to put my foundation on, I'll be able to really give this a nice shape so that I've got a really dramatic eye. I'm just going to make it a little tiny bit darker. And as you can see, I have a bit of fallout here, meaning a bit of the product's just fallen down underneath. And that's no problem for me because I don't have any foundation or anything on yet. If I did have a full face of foundation, then I'd have an issue because I'd have to try and wipe it off with makeup, then go right back over it with foundation again, and it would become a mess. This is the reason I like to do my eyes first when I'm doing a really deep glam look. Tapping in the corner. Tap, 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 and just running it through. Okay. Now, I'm going to use some of these foil colours, which are just beautiful. I'm going to use this one, which is Golden Light. And the best way to put these foil colours on, I always find, is by using your finger. You can wet a brush and use a flat brush to do it, but I find the pigment goes on a lot better if you put your finger in. So here you go, I'm dipping my finger in. You can see that beautiful shade is on my finger, and I'm just going to press it onto my eye. And then I'm going to do the other side. Same thing, just pressing it into my eye. Lid. It's just going on the lid. Okay. I want to clean that up a bit now. So I want it all blended nice and seamlessly. Again, I don't want it to look like I've got different colors going on. I want them all blending in together. So I'm going to just work with that truffle again and just make sure that that's all blended through there on the corner and bringing it across. Blending it through and bringing it across. Blending it through and bringing it across. Now, the next thing I want to do is use the most incredible shade on my eyes. And that is Too Faced again. And that's their Crystal Whipped in the gold. And it's the most stunning color. So for this, I'm actually just going to go in the middle of my eye. So it's almost, well, it's a liquid. So I'm just putting that in the middle of my eye just to really give the middle of my eye a pop. Just packing it on the middle of my eye. I'm going to dip it in again just to do the other side, and I'm just again doing the middle of my eye because I want a nice gradient eye. So I'm just doing the middle of my eye. Okay, I need to let that dry for a couple of seconds. So while I let that dry, I'm just going to put some primer on. I've been using the Mecca Max. I find this is such a beautiful hydrating formula. So I'm going to put it on now. I just put it on my fingers, just a small bit on my fingers. And then I just run it all over my face, just like you would a cream, all over your face. Okay, and I have, as I spoke in the last video, and for those of you who didn't see the last video, I have a problem with large pores here. So I like to use the Porefessional, this one here, again from Benefit. It is amazing because it fills in your pores so seamlessly that you can't even see them. So again, you just need the tiniest little bit. I take about that much on my finger. And then all I'm going to do is just press it into my nose. Press, press, press. And that's filling up all of the pores in my skin. So it will leave a really nice seamless base for when I put my foundation on. I'm just going to go up here. Fix up just fill in a couple of things up here. Pressed it into my nose and I'm ready to go. Okay, now that I've done that, I'm going back into my eyes. I've got my liquid eyeliner has dried, so I'm going to take some cocoa, this one here, and with a big fluffy brush, I'm just going to run along the outside to make sure it's all blended seamlessly. And a little bit back into that seashell colour, this very first light colour, and just running it up the top just to make sure there's no harsh lines. Seashell, just running through, again making sure there's no harsh lines. Now because I'm going for a gradient look, I'm now going to take Shimmer Pearl, which is this beautiful colour here. Again, I'm going to take it on my finger, and I'm going to put it on the inner corner of my eye. So I'm just going to press it into the inner corner of my eye, just like that. And just like that. So I've started to get a real gradient effect. And I'm going to again get my brush and just go across it all so that I have no harsh lines. Okay. I love this part because this is where the magic happens. This is where I always look at my eyes and think, oh, I wanted a really dramatic look, but it's not that dramatic until you put foundation on and suddenly they pop. So for foundation today, I'm going to use Fenty, the Fenty Beauty Foundation. This is in the colour 200. It's the Pro Filter. I'm just going to take it on my fingers. I'm going to dot a bit here, dot a bit here, a bit on my chin, a bit on my forehead. And again, with a damp beauty sponge, I'm going to start tapping it all through. Now, just to remind everybody who didn't see my last video, don't try and take your product or your foundation up around your eyes. You're wanting to try and keep as little product as possible on your face. So what you're trying to do, knowing that you're going to put concealer in here to get rid of any veins. You can see I've got a few veins here. I've got some dark spots. I wanted to try and avoid that as much as possible with foundation so that I'm only using a tiny bit of product on there. And I'm tapping in a tapping motion. I'm not swiping in a swiping motion. Once you swipe in a swiping motion, you're rubbing it into your skin. You don't want to rub it into your skin. You just want to tap it. So tap, tap, tap. Tap all the way through. Make sure you take it through to your ears. And then bringing it down your neck. Really important to bring it down your neck, otherwise you're left with a really strange looking face where you can see where your foundation starts and your skin starts. So I'm just making sure that's all blended through, blending it all through. Bring it down the neck. And making sure it's all blended. I'm just going to put a tiny bit more foundation on. So I've just got the Fenty and I'm just getting a little bit more on my finger, and I'm just going to pop a tiny bit more on just because I want to build it up. Because it is a glam look, I want it to be a nice full coverage. So just dabbing that into my skin. Going down the neck again, into the ears, up the top. Okay, so I'm really happy with how the coverage is looking now. Just making sure it's seamlessly blended through. Okay, now I'm going to start concealing some spots on my face. So the first place I want to conceal is under my eye. So I'm going to get my Born This Way concealer again. I'm just going to take it and I'm going to create a V shape. So as you can see, I've got a bit of eyeshadow here, so I'm just going to cover that. Now I want to also run it on the top of my lip, down my nose, up the top of my face, and on my chin. The reason I do this is because that way I get a really seamless look, and it doesn't just look like I've got a really bright eye and you can really tell I'm wearing concealer. It's about bringing it all together and mixing it all in together. So now that I've got that on, I also want to give myself a really sharp eye look. So how I'm going to do that is I'm going to bring, just with my brush before, I'm going to bring it up like that. So I've created a nice line, and again, I'm going to do it like that. A nice line. My eyeshadow finishes and my concealer starts. I'm going to get my beauty blender, but this time I'm going to use the flat side, and I'm going to use the point because that'll allow me to get right up into under my eye socket, and I'm going to start blending it out. Blending it out all the way up. Blending it up right under the eye. Down in the chin area, on the nose, and up here. And I'm going to just bring it a little bit further down onto my cheekbone so that it's all seamlessly blended with my foundation. Now I'm going to bake the under eye. By baking the under eye, I'm going to use the Too Faced, and this is the Translucent setting powder. It has a little top that we take off, undo, and then I just tap the product into the lid of the setting powder. I'm just going to pick up a tapered brush. I'm going to put some product on the brush and I'm going to roll it under the eye. Now the reason you bake or you do this, I'm going to bring it down my nose. The reason you do this is because it will really set the concealer, and the concealer will stay in place all day and you won't get creases, so it won't settle into your fine lines if you've, like me, and got some fine lines under your eyes. Now while I've done that, and while I'm waiting for my eyes to bake, I'm going to my face using the Max Studio Fix, and I'm just going to put it and dab it on. I'm dabbing it, because if I start to swipe it, then I start to move the foundation around and therefore start creating texture on my skin again, which I don't want. I want to have a really lovely airbrushed look. I'm just pressing it in. As you can see, I've still got the translucent powder baking under my eyes while I'm doing this. And now that I've set that foundation in place, I'm going to start bronzing up my face. I'm going to use the Cheekleader Benefit palette. In here, you've got your Hula, which is your bronze shade. You've got Tickle, which is a really lovely highlighting shade. You've got California and Dandelion, which are your cheek shades. And then you've got Dallas, which is also supposed to be a cheek shade, but I actually use this as a contour. For my face, I find it really good as a contour. What you're doing with your contour is you're creating a shadow within your makeup. So you're making your cheekbone really pop out and this sit in, really giving your face a nice shape. So the way I do that is I get this little brush that came with the set and I sit here and I start from the ear, the top of the ear, and I'm just going down and I'm stopping just here, because that is just where I want my contour. I don't want my contour all the way down. It will come all the way down with the bronzer, but I don't want to bring my contour all the way down. So again, showing you on this side, start at the top of the ear and I'm just bringing it down just to the middle of your cheek like that. So you can see that I'm starting to create a chiseled look. Then I'm going to get a big fluffy brush and I'm going to take Hula, which is this bronzing color here. I'm going to tap it on, tap it off, and I'm going to start where all the sun, tapping where all the sun would touch, and that's where I'm going to start bronzing up. So I'm tapping it on the skin, and with bronzer, you're effectively making a 3. So you're wanting to put it here, you're wanting to run it down here. So you can see that it's diffused out. I've still got it there, but it's diffused out the contour, so it's not looking as noticeable on both sides. And then you're wanting to create a shadow down your neck. So for this, I'm just bronzing up my neck. So just bronzing up my neck, my cheeks, my temples. Then I'm going to go back into I'm going to go back into Dallas, which is this darker shade with this pencil, and I'm going to run it along my jawline. The reason I'm doing this is because it's going to really define my jawline and hide any double chins that you might have. Really give a really nice definition to that jawline. Now that I've finished doing that, I'm going to wipe away my baking and start working on my under eyes. So I'm just going to sweep that up and off. Sweep it up and off, like that. And I want to start putting some shades under the under eye, and that way it brings my eyes together. It gives you a seamless look. So I've got my smaller fluffy brush that I was using before. I'm going to start with Nude, this color here, and I'm going to run it under each of the eyes. And I'm just smoking it out. Again, the Nude, running it under and smoking it out. Then I'm going to get even a smaller brush, really defined brush, I'm going to pick up Cocoa, so that really that darker shade, and I'm going to deepen up under my eye. Cocoa again, and run it under the eye and deepen up under the eye. And just at the sides of the eyes, I'm going to take a Truffle, that really dark shade that we had in the corner of our eye up here, and I'm just going to bring it just a tiny bit down and a tiny bit up. Again, just creating that line, that triangle. Okay, I'm going to get that bigger fluffy brush again, and I'm going to get Seashell, which was the very first colour we went in, and I'm going to blend it all together. Okay, so our eyes are really starting to come together now, as you can see. I'm going to start to highlight in the middle of my eye. So I'm going to take my finger again, and I'm just going to put Glistening Snow on the corner of my eye. And I'm going to run it just along on top of my brow. The reason I'm doing this is because it's opening up my eye by putting it in the corner, and it's giving me a real lift by putting a highlight at the top of my eyebrow. So it's effectively making my eyes look a lot higher than they are. Okay. Now I'm going to get the Marc Jacobs pencil, and I'm going to put this in my waterline. Running this through the waterline. I also like to run it up the sides, up in here, because it gives your eye a really nice definition when you bring your eyeliners up through your eye, around your eye. Really gives that eye a good definition. So as you can see, that's really been smoked out. And I'm just going to smoke out a tiny bit more under that eye using maple. Bring it all together. Okay. So now I'm going to put my highlighter on. So I'm going to use Tickle, this one here, just with a highlighting pencil, and I'm just going to run it along the top of that cheekbone, and it just makes that cheekbone pop out. Run along here. I love a good highlight. I don't think you can ever have too much highlight. I'm going to put some on the end of my nose. I'm going to run it up my nose. I'm going to put a bit of highlight up the top above each eyebrow, because again that will give a lifted look on my chin and on top of my lip. And that just gives me, makes my skin look really dewy and nice. As you can see, love it. Love a good highlighter. Okay, next I'm going to use my Better Than Sex. This is my eyeliner. I'm going to run it. I'm going to put eyelashes on today, so I want a nice band up on the top of my eye. That will hide where the lashes band will sit. Okay. So now that I've got my liquid eyeliner on, I'm going to get my Sephora crayon lip stain liner, and I'm going to line my lips. Now, if you're someone who doesn't have a great deal of lips, a good way to make that happen is to run on the outside of your lip line, just on the top of your lip here and on the bottom of your lip here, and then you follow your lip line around, and it just gives you the definition of fuller lips. Going to bring it up, and now I'm going to get my lip shade, which is Nars. It's a Nars lip pencil, and this is in the colour Do Me Baby, and I'm just going to pop on violet colour. Rub it together, and I really like the look of a glossy. I'm going to take my Nars and I'm just going to run that across, and it's just such a pretty colour to go on top. Okay. The last thing I'm going to do is use my Urban Decay Chill. This is a setting spray, so your makeup will not move. I'm going to set it. Just going to run my hands down just to dry it. Dry everything, put everything together. I'm going to go and put my lashes on, fix my hair up, and I'll come back and show you the final product. And this is the final makeup look. If you like today's tutorial, please subscribe to my channel and hit the bell down the bottom to be notified of all my future uploads.